So now that we have it set up to where we have our, power up message, animating, playing, and everything how we want, I want to kind of do the same thing, but more or less for the actual icons. So, for example, insta kill and double points. So it's going to work very similar. The way this is, at least I'm kind of planning on doing this because I'm not too familiar using, this with arrays because you have to make your own like field notify functions for adding, removing, getting, that kind of stuff. And I don't know how it corresponds well to the view model. So I'm a little questionable there. But the idea here is when we register a power up, specifically not register, but when we pick up a power up, we want to notify the view model that, hey, a power up has been picked up and here's its data. So that way, whatever is bound to it can have a function fire off that takes in that data and just, do what it needs. Likewise, we can kind of make it, I guess you could say, like delay, that kind of stuff. I'm not 100% sure. We just kind of got to figure it out as we go. But we need to add information to our data asset and we need to create some widgets. So, what I want to do is have a very simple a horizontal box. And we're going to dock it here to the bottom center, give it an alignment of 0.5. And let's just do 5 for now. So that way it's, just make it easy to see visually. So next up, we want to go ahead and set it to size to content because right now there's, nothing in it. So there's not going to see anything. And the idea is we're going to have basically a text, or sorry, not a text, a image that is going to represent each entry. So if I add, this image here, and then I say duplicated it, we have it, like the horizontal box growing with it. And yeah, so that's the idea. So let's go ahead and make it a variable and name it HB underscore, let's do power up icons. Okay, so we're going to leave everything there by default just so it's visible. And the reason I'm doing a horizontal box is because I need it to scale. So for example, if we were to add, let's say we picked up insta-kill, and while insta-kill was active, we also picked up a double points. We need them both to show. So we need it to just grow and show both. And then as one is done, we can remove it. Then as the other one's done, we can remove that. And everything's, how it's supposed to be. So now we need the actual icon that we're going to add to this. And likewise, we're going to want to make a function to use with the view model to handle it. So let's go ahead and make that so we can go to our graph. Here we have our, play power up message animation. We want to go ahead and make a new function. And let's call this one, let's do add power up icon. And in here, we want to go ahead and pass in, make it taking an input of PDA underscore power up. We'll do object reference and let's call this one power up data. That way we can access, whatever information we need. For example, we have the power up class component, and in our case, we want an icon, which we don't have yet, but we'll get there. So we have that, and we also need a way to remove it. So we'll work on that later. But for now, this is what we want. And the idea here is basically we want to check and see if an icon is valid. So for testing or for future memory, let's do a check. So if icon is valid, add to HB underscore power up icons. So this way we know what we need to do. So let's go ahead and get that set up to where we can broadcast it and we have our icon. So let's go to PDA underscore power up. And in our case, let's go ahead and we'll do this as a visual bundle because it is, something visual. Actually, scratch that. Let's do a new section called UI and a category also called UI. And let's do a T soft object pointer to a U image. Is it 2D? Did I even spell image right? What is it called? Or maybe I'm thinking of texture. let's see, what is the type that they take? So let's grab an image. Can be a U texture or U material interface. So in our case, we're going to use a U texture. So there is a U texture 2D. I cannot remember the differences, so I'm just going to leave it as U texture for now and go from there. So let's call this one the Powerup icon. All right, let's go ahead and close everything down, recompile, and relaunch. Okay, so I did a quick Google, changed this to U texture 2D, and forward declare. So now let's recompile and relaunch. Okay, once we are back in the editor, go ahead and head back to our HUD. And what we want to do is very similar to this, where we want to add a entry with our WPP HUD. And in our case, we want to basically fire off that given function we made, which was add Powerup icon. So add Powerup icon. And now we just want to basically make the notify. So before we actually get that far, let's go ahead and set up our data assets with the new information. So data, power-ups, and we want insta-kill because that's kind of like our test. And under UI, we want to go ahead and add the power-up icon of insta-kill. And while we're at it, it's probably not a bad idea to go ahead and add the corresponding double points. So we have two entries to test with. So let's change the mesh to double points and the UI as well to double points and the audio to double points. Yeah. Okay, so now head back over to our graph, and for add power up icon, if we search for icon under the power up data, we have access to the power up icon, which should be loaded into a memory. So realistically, we can load this asset as blocking and we should still be fine. But I almost forgot we do actually need to set it as the asset bundle in our power ups. Let's go to our powerup.cpp, go to our, let's see, our onRep power up data, find our load primary asset, and right after audio, we also want to add UI. So that way it'll go ahead and load this bundle. Okay, so from here, we want to go ahead and make a widget that represents the power up. So let's go to our gameplay, and we can just make a new one in here. So widget blueprint, user widget, WBP underscore power up icon. Now in here, we want to make it take in some information. So let's go ahead and make a new variable, and this will be our PDA underscore power up, and we'll call it power up data. Likewise, make it instance editable and expose on spawn, so that way we can grab it and grab information such as the icon and all of that. In conjunction, we can handle our own kind of timers and stuff like that based upon the duration and whatnot that is left if need be. But for now, we just want to simply add a image. Actually, yeah, because we're going to wrap this in a size box now that I'm thinking about it. So for example, let me go ahead and drag that power up icon in. And if I was to say, set the image to be the insta-kill, oh, maybe not. It's not actually scaling. Oh, yeah, it does. So when size of content is enabled. So if I drag it into the horizontal box, you can see it just seems like it kind of goes to, I guess, Narnia. But then if I change the image size, let's try 32 by 32. Yeah, you can see it there. So we want to wrap this with a size box and make it a consistent size, which we'll do 32 by 32. That way we can leave our image, to whatever it happens to be. So now we have our, doohickey here. So go ahead and delete that. And we are, in theory, kind of somewhat good to go. So I'm going to reset the image, go back to our graph, and we want to, actually, we need to make our image a variable, and let's name it to I_icon. So that way we can grab it and set the image, or what is it, set texture maybe? Or set brush from texture, from soft texture in this case. And we're going to be using the Powerup icon. Plug that in, compile, save, and now we can head over to our WBP HUD to actually create it and add it. So in our case, when we add a Powerup icon, we want to first off grab the icon, and if this is valid, so if it's a valid soft object reference, then we know we want to actually make use of it. So let's add a branch, because that means it is something that has one, such as insta-kill or double points, whereas things like max ammo, carpenter, and nuke, they don't have this, so they're not going to need to be added or anything. And if this is true, we want to create a widget of our icon and passing in our Powerup data. Once we've done that, we can grab our, where's our box? So our Powerup icons box, and we want to add child to horizontal box. Compile, save, and that is pretty much it from our logic here. So back in our designer, go to our bindings, we can now call our add Powerup icon from our corresponding Powerup, which we need to make. So we need to make a notify that basically takes in a, let me rephrase that, it doesn't take in, it passes through the Powerup data. So let's go back to our view model Powerup. Let's add another entry, and this one is just going to be simply called Powerup. Let's do a picked up Powerup data, and it'll be of the type T object pointer of a UPDA underscore Powerup. So let's forward declare that and go ahead and make our setter and getter. So void set power, or set picked up Powerup data. And we also want a get. So UPDA underscore Powerup, get Powerup data. So this will return picked up Powerup data. And then this one here will simply set picked up Powerup data to new value. So now we just need to call this from our CPP. So basically when it is picked up, we want to call set picked up Powerup data and pass in Powerup get Powerup data. Now we can also kind of broadcast, or let me rephrase that, change this up to be using a single notify that just handles this data. So when something is added, when something is removed, that kind of thing, and handle it from there. So that might be something to consider later on. But for the time being, I'm not really too worried about it, because again, we're just trying to get things up and going. So we have an issue here, expected a getter or picked up Powerup data. Oh, that's the wrong name. So get picked up Powerup data. There we go. So it was just having the wrong name here that didn't correspond to the variable, so the getter was not valid. Okay, expected a setter picked up Powerup data. Let's make sure that that's spelled right too. So set picked up Powerup data. Oops, we don't need it to take in a T object pointer. Let's make it take in a raw pointer. Try it again. It's one of the things I love and hate about the autocomplete. It works, and it also at the same time doesn't work. So let's let this build, and we are good to go. So now we just want to make sure that this does in fact actually work, so that way we can, receive the notify when Powerup is added. And as long as, two Powerups don't get picked up on the same frame, which I honestly cannot see ever happening, we are completely fine. All right, let's go ahead and reload our widgets. So back in our HUD, we want to go ahead and select the viewModel Powerup, picked up Powerup data, compile, save, and in theory, we should be good to go. So I'm going to modify the game mode a bit to make this easier just for testing, to where we have just simply insta-kill and the double points. So only those should drop. Okay, so we have an error accessed none for add Powerup icon. So for some reason, I guess it's maybe initializing or calling it initially to be invalid. So let's just do a simple is valid check before anything else on the Powerup data. So as long as that's valid, we know we are good to go. Clean that up a tiny bit. So now, make sure this actually runs. Seems like it's good to go. Now we just gotta wait for a zombie to kill and drop a Powerup. My luck one's gonna spawn as I start to run away. Okay. So double points.
Double points.
There's our double points. There's our insta-kill.
Insta-kill.
And they are added as needed. So when I pick up another insta-kill.
Insta-kill.
Yeah, so nothing really happens. It just kind of gets, what do you call it? Not gonna be able to go through here, am I? Yeah, figured.
Insta-kill.
Okay, so now out of curiosity, let's go ahead and just add some additional ones. So we can add we'll do a nuke, and let's open up our nuke. Under UI, let's give it a random, we'll give it this guy. So now, in theory, it should also scale to 3. So hopefully we can get 3 different drops relatively quickly. There's one there. Okay. So we have our double points. I missed all those. So we have insta-kill and our nuke, and they just add appropriately. So that's good. So now that that's out of the way, there's really not much else to do there. So we do need to do a little bit of cleanup. I'm going to remove the entry from the nuke, because I do want to also pick up another nuke just to triple check and play as client, because I want to make sure that it doesn't actually try to add anything to our icons down here. Because again, the nuke does not have anything for an icon.
Kaboom.
So it doesn't add it. And since we're playing as a client, let's just make sure that it does in fact actually work. There's that weird issue that I haven't figured out. Of course, it's a nuke.
Kaboom.
So we need to figure out that walking issue client side. Another nuke.
Insta-kill.
And I guess that was kind of weird.
Insta-kill. Double.
Okay, so it seems like it works, but we did have that weird issue again where unless there was an insta-kill spawned inside of it somewhere, I mean, that might be something we have to really kind of test on because it's really weird. But when we picked up the nuke, it displayed that it was both the nuke and insta-kill. And that's happened to us twice now. So I'm not 100% sure as to what is causing that or how to really reproduce it. But I do know that there is a slight refactor in our game mode that we want to do, which is going to be kind of like a small optimization as well. But yeah, I digress. That's pretty much going to be it for now. So now that we have that out of the way, let's go ahead and real quick anchor it down to a better spot. So right now we're at like 5. Let's uncheck that so we can see it. Let me pull up a reference really quick to see where it's at. Okay, so it's relatively low, definitely lower than where we have it. So if I do this to like 2, that's probably going to be an appropriate spot. So that's just where I'm going to leave it, and I'm going to re-enable size to content. And lastly, the only thing I can really think of is going to be the distance between the images. So let me really quickly remove the nuke again. So that way we just have insta-kill and double points. So there's our insta-kill.
Insta-kill.
Let's get a double points as well, hopefully. Shot all those in the ground, naturally. So there's our double points.
Double points.
And you can see there is no gap. So we want to add some spacing there. So let's see, let's go to our HUD. Let's add 2 of the icons to our horizontal box. And let's see, we can add some padding. Can't really do it here, so let's try to change that up and do it in the icon itself. Yeah, we'll just dock it. So in the icon, let's give some padding of, really, I think we only need kind of the left and the right, but I want to make it universal so it's square, so let's do something like 5. Check that out. And there we have a distance. That's, I think, a decent bit. Let's try something like 2.5, so we'll have it. And that's probably going to be okay. So lastly, let's give that a quick try. We can remove these 2 entries. See if we can get one to spawn. Okay, none spawning there. And we probably are going to want to bump up the size maybe a tiny bit as well.
Double points.
Actually, when playing in full screen, that's really not bad. So let's just bump it up ever so slightly. So right now we're at 32 by 32. I mean, we could try going up to, say, 64. That might be a little bit on the big side.
Insta-kill. Double points.
So yeah, that's too big. So I do kind of like the 32 by 32. So let's just try what kind of meets semi in the middle. We'll do 40 by 40. So I'm going to leave it there, and that's where I'm going to call it. So we have our power up icons, and those are working as we want. So the only thing left is basically going to be kind of the removal logic, which we have to figure out. That is going to, in conjunction, handle it kind of being timed with the widget. So we need to start making it flash when it's about to expire, and that kind of thing. So with that out of the way, I will see you in the next video. If you like what I'm doing and you want to help support me, you can find a link to my Patreon in the description below, where you can also get early access to this entire series.